We're coming into the last few dates for Return of the Rat Tour. We'll be in Philadelphia, Rochester, New York, Detroit, Michigan, Los Angeles, Anaheim, and Oceanside. You can get your tickets only at theovon.com/TOUR. And thank you to everyone that has shown support. Love y'all. Wanted to mention that Governor Tim Walz was going to be a guest on the podcast this week, but there was a shooting amongst some of his coworkers, colleagues, Minnesota lawmakers. And so they're obviously very bereaved up there, and we wish them peace and prayers and hope to catch up with him another time. Just advising that this episode was recorded late last week. I was on tour, and so we couldn't get it all put together, but we're happy to get it out today. Today's guest is a congressman from Kentucky's 4th District. He is from Appalachia, and he got a master's degree at MIT before he got into politics. He's a member of the Republican Party, but he's a bit of a rogue guy. He does things his own way, and I'm fortunate today to spend time with Congressman Thomas Massie. All right, Thomas Massie, thanks for coming in, man.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, dude.
Good to be here. Just had to cross the state border to get here.
Yeah, that's what I see from Kentucky. And you drove, like you just took me into your home, in your camper home vehicle.
It's a F-250 with a truck camper, and I lived for 2 solid years in it in D.C., still occasionally do.
And where would you park that thing at?
Well, I don't want to disclose where I park, but I did get in trouble. I parked the truck camper. It's a Super Duty. Mm-hmm. It's got even though it fits in the back of a pickup, it's got a shower, bathroom, stove, and a fridge.
Oh, it felt super when I was in there. That living arrangement in there, I could have definitely cozied up. It felt very cool. The milk felt cold in there. We had a little cup of milk, which is definitely it's
raw milk.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully,
don't tell anybody across state lines with that. But so here's a funny story. I was parking this truck camper in D.C. in a congressional lot, mm-hmm. and it got hotter than the hinges of hell in the summertime in this parking lot. So I ran a little extension cord over to the electric car charging station so I could run the air conditioner on my camper at night. Mm-hmm. Well, the cops like to park. They didn't know I was living in this camper, and I would park close to a Sprinter van, and the cops would park between me and the Sprinter van to take a nap at night.
Oh, so everybody's working together.
Yeah. I would look out the camper and do a wellness check on them at night. They didn't know I was looking out for them. But anyways, one night—
That's diplomacy. It's how it all works. It's like everybody's kind of hiding a little bit behind the other group.
One night it was like that movie Bridge Over the River Kwai. They found my 50-foot extension cord and followed it over to the electric car charging station. They said, damn, there's somebody living in this truck. Yeah. So my chief of staff got a call from the speaker's chief of staff, and he said, we think your boss is living in lot 28. And he said, what do you mean? In a pickup truck?
Yeah.
And I told my chief, don't call him back. Let me settle this. So we have a don't ask, don't tell arrangement. Mm-hmm. As long as I don't start a KOA or something in the congressional lot, I can live there.
If the cops are getting a little bit of shut-eye, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're able to operate a grill, or a little 2-stroke motor in there, something to keep the blender working.
Well, I got to mix my medical margaritas in there and keep the raw milk cold. So what I eventually did was cover it in solar panels and took off the old air conditioner and put a mini split on the back. So it looks like the Millennial Falcon now.
Oh, yeah, it definitely looks like the guy that's in there. It definitely seems like you want to get his fingerprints. I feel like. That has a CODIS vibe outside of it, But that's isn't it, a lot of your vibe is that you're off the grid. I've heard that.
Yeah, off the grid in the camper and off the grid at home. So I haven't bought public utilities in 20 years.
Wow.
And that, that kind of ties into when I go to D.C., that gives me some independence. Mm-hmm. Because if everything goes to hell and I'm no longer a congressman and I don't have a job, I still got a house where all my own utilities are taken care of. It runs off solar, got a backup generator, got a well that I dug. And it just gives you this sense that, okay, the worst day in Kentucky is better than my best day in D.C.
Mm. And this is you right here. This is you right here.
Yeah, that's one of my gardens, and there's some of my chickens clucking around.
Oh, yeah.
I built a mobile pen that moves with the chickens to keep the coyotes from eating them. Now, it's like a Roomba. Think of a Roomba with 50 chickens in it, moving around in my yard. It runs on solar, collects rainwater, and it takes care of my chickens when I'm not there.
And what makes it move? How does that even work? Bring that up, Trevin. Can you get me so we can see what I'm looking at?
I don't have any footage of it on here, but I call it, so it first ran off batteries and a solar panel, and the batteries went dead, and I'm like, this sucks. I don't like taking batteries to a landfill, because I was trying to come up with a green way to raise chickens. So I figured out a way to do it with supercapacitors. There's no battery in it, and the supercapacitors never wear out, and I call it the Klux capacitor.
Is this kind of an example?
Yeah, that's what it's like, except mine moves itself. Mine's like a Roomba version that's robotic.
And so what is the point of it moving?
Well, chickens poop, and you don't want them walking around in their own poop.
Oh, yeah.
They also like to eat a certain amount of grass and bugs. And so this gives them fresh forage, and it keeps them out of their poop. They don't get disease. It fertilizes my yard. It mows my grass. Everything's all happy in the Klux capacitor.
I got to get a damn chicken, dude. Or a little batch of chickens. I got to get something. I almost bought my mom 2 goats, but for years, she's like, give me some goats. And then she didn't want it. She just has a problem with everything. But anyway, so what is a flux capacitor?
Klux capacitor.
Okay,
It's the circuit that I designed. So I'm a double E by training, electrical engineer by training. And I just had to come up with some way to keep my chickens alive and keep them healthy while I went to DC. So I came up with this circuit board that's got capacitors that trickle charge from a little solar panel the size of a sheet of paper. And it's got an automotive winch in the front, so it can pull itself even if it weighs 2,500 pounds along a cable.
So you don't pay an electric bill?
No electric bill, no water bill, no sewer bill. I do have an internet bill because I use Starlink.
Oh, yeah. And is that legal? Are you allowed to legally be a person like that?
Well, they tried to bring more regulation to our county 20 years ago before I was a congressman, and I wrote letters to the editor and mobilized people, and we stopped them from bringing more regulation to our county. So it's still legal where I live.
Wow, because it seems like a very libertarian or almost like a lot of the ideas seem almost very like something you would see like on the Democratic Party, which sounds kind of wild, Oh,
I'd say I'm the greenest member of Congress, and no Democrat has come after me. No fact checker has ever tried to check that fact because they know it's true.
Wow, it's kind of crazy that the greenest member, with the term greenest, is now a Republican, because you wouldn't necessarily think that.
No, you wouldn't think that. I mean, I have a Tesla that charges off the solar panels on my house, collect rainwater, I dug a well, I've got a bunch of trees that I'm not cutting down. They are bringing in all kinds of CO2, although I like CO2. I wish I had more because it makes my peaches get bigger on my farm.
Oh, yeah.
I raise grass-fed cattle.
And what kind of group do you have helping you over there? Because I don't think you can't get out there first thing every day and do it all.
I do it myself, 90% of it. I mean, if I'm in D.C. and the cattle get loose, I got a neighbor, you got to have some neighbors that'll help you.
Yeah.
And the deal is I'll help them when they need help. Oh, there's a picture of my cattle. They are Angus crossed with Wagyu. I call them Wangus.
Oh, wow.
Wangus beef.
It's a little urban over there, definitely. That's definitely
There's the, not the black sheep, but the white cow. He kind of stands out. I say I feel like that white cow in DC some days. Do I really belong in this herd?
Yeah. Yeah, you seem like a little bit of like an outsider, I think, like a black sheep or like a maverick. I feel like people say, if they talk about a maverick, then they say Thomas Massie, How much money do you save by living the way that you do, like off-grid?
I don't think I've saved a dime. It costs a lot to do it. You can save money by heating your house with wood, which I do. But if you start counting how much you're paying yourself when you chop that wood, it's probably about $3 an hour.
Right.
And I could go work at Dollar General and make more money than I do when I save money heating my house with wood. So if I were completely, poor, I could keep living, but to set all that up took a large investment. It will probably pay off by the time I die.
So you just want to end the book with even books.
Zero, yeah.
Yeah.
Just clear the tab when I leave the bar.
No debt.
No debt. Yeah.
Yeah, because you always wonder, like, okay, I want to live off the grid. But there's a real cost to it. But a lot of that cost is sweat equity. Do you feel like?
Yeah, it's sweat equity, and it'll pay back unlike what we're doing in D.C. I mean, if we were borrowing money in D.C. to fund the future, I could be for borrowing money. The problem is up there, it's not like on my farm where you invest in fences and you invest in livestock. In D.C., we're just pissing away the money and living on basically our seed corn. We are taking what should be saved for the next generation and spending it now.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah, we're robbing the next generation, but it's got so bad, we're robbing ourselves 5 years from now.
Right. It's getting that close.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about, are you talking about the national debt overall? Yeah. Okay, I've heard you talk a lot about it, and I see you got your...
This is my debt badge. It shows I've got 3 levels of brightness, so if you wear it to the movies, you can tone it down and not blind your date. But, okay, so I've got on the brightest level there. Hopefully your camera can see it.
Yeah.
I wear this every second I'm in the House of Representatives. I wear it in hearings. I wear it in elevators with Democrats. They think it's how many steps I've taken. But I built this using my electrical engineering degree. I came up with this idea and I built it. It's got Wi-Fi. Once a day, it connects to the treasury.gov and calibrates to the penny. So it's the most accurate debt representation that you can have. In fact,
holy shit,
it's
dude.
Let me make sure.
You're like Mark Zucker Twain.
This is, I brought you one as a gift, Theo.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, brother. So,
oh, hell yeah, dude.
You can just stare at the numbers, just spinning all day long. It just clips onto your pocket
but
there.
What kind of woman am I going to meet wearing this, though?
Oh, man. I don't know what kind you've been meeting, but you've really upped your game with that thing.
You think?
Yeah.
They're going to think I am way broke.
I had a female congressman staring at my chest the other day, and I had to tell her my eyes were up here. And then she asked if I would make a belt buckle out of it.
Oh, damn, brother. Yeah, people want it all nowadays. People just want to see your damn wiener if they can for free sometimes. I'm like, get away from me. But let's talk about the national debt. Actually, because can you explain it to me? A lot of people don't even understand the national debt. We hear about it. What is the amount right now, too?
Well, we don't even really know. I mean, this is the regime number, the one that Treasury publishes. It's $36.2 trillion, roughly.
Trillion dollars.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you see this one online? It's not that accurate. Like, it's off by a few $100 billion. We were shipping these debt clocks. I don't make them, but my son-in-law makes them and sells them. And he had somebody go online and find this debt counter and say, "Oh, you sold me a faulty debt badge." And he's like, "No, ours calibrates with Treasury every day."
It's so sad that we can't even get even our debt clock doesn't even. It's like, at least invest in the fucking clock that shows the debt, right?
Well, what they might be trying to do there online is anticipate when we lift the debt limit. Like, right now, we've hit the debt limit, so it's stuck at $36.2 trillion. Every day, they sort of reset the number until Congress raises the debt limit. Now, you say, how do they do that? Well, they start selling off the postal workers' pension fund. They take the money that's been saved up to pay your postman his retirement, and they use that to fund other parts of the government. They can only do that for a few months, and that's what we've been doing for the first 6 months of this presidency. And pretty soon we're going to run out of all those extra things we can spend.
That we're leveraging, basically?
Yeah, we're leveraging all that, and they're going to have to pay it all back. So we're really probably are closer to 36.6 or 36.8 trillion.
But is that a common practice, like leveraging like pensions or I don't want to say like Medicaid and Medicare? They're not leveraging that, right?
Oh, anything they can get their hands on, they liquidate it, and they spend it, for instance, to buy bombs and send them overseas. All that deficit spending right now is not funded by Treasury bonds. All the new deficit spending is funded by the trust funds that have been established that might have money in them.
Okay, I'm a little confused on that.
Well, it's like this, Theo. Let's say you saved up for your kids' college.
Okay,
they've been going to college, and you got enough to pay the next semester of college, but your credit card comes in, and your credit card gets canceled. So instead of renewing your credit card, you just spend your kids' next tranche of tuition or something. But you got to find that money before the next semester comes back, or else they get kicked out of school.
Okay, and so how do we find that money? Like, because obviously we repeatedly...
Well, Congress is going to pass a law here in the next few weeks, and they're just going to say, "Oh, well, there's no debt limit. It's now $5 trillion higher than what we said.
They moved the limit up.
They move the limit up. They get a new credit card. They go out. They start borrowing new money to pay off the money they borrowed, and it's a vicious cycle.
Got it. And it's obviously a cycle that we've been in for a long time. I think to the point where like the national debt doesn't even make sense to people, right? It's like, here's my question is, who do we owe the money to?
Some of it is owed to institutional investors, like the big banks in the United States. Some of it is owed to sovereign wealth funds, like China, Japan, other countries that buy our debt for us. And here's the problem. Right now, they're telling us we don't want to buy your debt at 2% or 3% or 4%. We want at least 5% return. And so everybody thinks the Federal Reserve is setting interest rates. You know, there's all this discussion. Will the Fed raise the rate? Will the Fed lower the rate? The reality right now is the Fed can't do much, because if they lower the rate to, let's say, 4%, and try to tell people to buy our debt at 4%, the people who normally buy our debt, those foreign countries and those institutional investors, are saying, you're not a good investment at 4%. We want 5%. And that's a big problem. Because just to put it in perspective, you know, let's round this number. If it were $30 trillion and we were paying 5%, that is $16,000 per family. I've already done the math. I'm not doing all that in my head right now, but it's $16,000 per family of interest that we are paying.
Got it.
So when you pay your taxes for your family, the first $16,000 goes to nothing except for the interest that's paid to those foreign countries and to the big bankers.
But so we're never going to defeat this number.
You know, we might get in a situation like Puerto Rico got into a few years ago, where the people said, we're just not loaning you anymore. And you know what happens that day? It's actually kind of it'll be scary for a lot of people. For me, it would be a good day, because that's the day we have to balance the budget. When people say, we're not going to loan you any more money, you're not a good investment, we don't trust that you'll pay it back. That is the day that you can only spend as much money as you take in on any given week.
And are a lot of people in Congress aware of this and like battling it, or it almost seems like we don't even hear about, like, it seems like it's one of those things you hear about during the election cycle and that's about it, you know? Like, we're going to balance the budget, and it never happened. No one ever balances the budget. Like, do you think anyone, either one of these parties, even want to balance the budget?
No. They're not serious about it. It's why I built the debt badge, to like shove it in their face every day. And they're still not concerned about it. I mean, they're a little bit concerned, but as long as they can get reelected, they're not that concerned.
Right.
And I don't blame them for all of it. I blame the American people who keep reelecting people because they tell them you can have these things and it won't cost anything. So I hear people talk about like mass deportations, and there's $100 billion to DHS and $50 billion to DOJ to do mass deportations. Well, we know it doesn't cost that. Whatever Trump has intended to do, it's not going to cost $150 billion. But people say, I don't care what it costs. And the reason they say I don't care what it costs is they don't think they're paying it.
Yeah.
They don't care what anything costs. They don't care what war in the Middle East costs, because they don't see that they're paying it.
Well, it's all gotten so confusing. And when you start with communication with people, even on a financial front, of this Hogwartsian number, right?
Yes, yeah.
When you start, because we all learn basic math in school.
Yeah.
Some of us learn algebra. Some of us go on to learn some higher maths, right? But when you're starting with this, the regular person doesn't know where to begin. You feel literally like numerically defeated out of the gate, right? The average person, because it's like it's impossible. So this sets everything up with impossibility, right? So I think that's why we've gotten so far. We've gotten 2 generations now into complete impossibility of numerical reality when it comes to even having some of the discussions, I think. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes sense. It's virtual reality.
Right.
The last 5 digits on this debt counter, they change about $80,000 a second. That's like a Cybertruck being launched into the ocean every second. Like boom, 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 boom. That's how much debt we're taking on.
Well, so I hope the new model looks a little bit different. I have a Cybertruck, and the
Let's
model,
put my camper in it.
Oh, I don't know if we can fit it in there.
I don't think so. That's why I have an F-250.
Dude, yeah, I think I need to get something that I want something that it feels like you'll burn to death when you hit something. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like about something that's got some real fuel in it. But this thing definitely.
Oh, there's one with a camper.
But I think the newer ones will have better camper abilities. There's no way to get out of the inside through the back window right now.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like you just work for Lowe's, but you never drop off what you're delivering. You're always like, where does this go? You know, how much meat's in here? It just has that very Whirlpool or Frigidaire kind of energy. But it does go very fast. You almost feel like you could beat an email somewhere. That bitch is fast, dude. Let's talk, since we're talking about debt, let's talk a little bit about the big beautiful bill, right?
Yeah.
And you oppose it.
Yeah.
Right. And there's reasons that I've learned recently that I oppose it. I don't know a ton of them, but I know some of my reasons, but I don't know everything that's in the bill. Why are you against it? Because it's not going to help our debt.
No. That's the first big lie that's told about the big beautiful bill. You can finagle the numbers. Mm-hmm. The big beautiful bill looks at a 10-year spending window. Okay. And what it does is in the next 5 years, it's going to add to the deficit. Nobody disputes that. Even the number crunchers that work for the president know that's going to happen. What they're claiming is 5 years from now, it will start to break even and reduce the deficit. The problem is the people I serve with, a lot of them aren't going to be there 5 years from now.
Right.
The President Trump's not going to be there 5 years from now. This big, beautiful bill doesn't force people 5 years from now to do that. It suggests that they should do that, and it will do that unless somebody does something different. But they're going to do something different 5 years from now. We'll get to that point, and they'll say, oh my gosh, that Congress 5 years ago set up a fiscal cliff. We're going to be hit with tax increases on seniors. We're going to be hit with tax on tips. We're going to be hit with tax on overtime. Oh my gosh, the military's not going to get as much money as it got last year. We got to do something about this. And so what they'll do is they'll cut taxes again and they'll increase spending again, and this deficit will never go down. And I'm not even talking about the debt. The deficit is how much you add to the debt every year. It's about $2 trillion. It's going to be above $2 trillion next year, and for as far as the eye can see.
But I got to talk with J.D. Vance a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about that a lot of what's happening now is still because of the last party that was in.
Yeah, and a lot of it's still because of what Trump did when he was in last time. So
I'm just wondering how far it's tough to as a regular person, it's tough to correlate how far up or downstream you are from who was actually responsible for whatever's occurring. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but in 2020 we had COVID hit, and they put a $2 trillion spending bill on the floor, and I was the only one who would oppose it. I said, this is going to cause, Trump was president and Pelosi was speaker, but they were working together. I said, this is going to cause massive inflation. You're going to have shortages in the stores, and this is going to last for years. And the inflation, once it happens, the prices will never go back down. And that's exactly what happened. They said, Congressman Massie, the president's chief of staff at the time, told me, he said, it was Mark Meadows, who's a friend of mine. We both worked together in Congress. He said, the reason this is $2 trillion is so we don't have to pass another one of these. It's just going to be painful once. Well, guess what? By the time December rolled around under Trump, we passed another one of these stimulus packages that was over $1 trillion. And don't forget, people got a $1,200 check the first time, and they got a $600 check the second time. I told folks that's the cheese in the trap. That most of, that $1,200 check, you multiply that times the number of families in the United States, it wasn't 5% of the spending in that bill. Most of that money went to corporations and banks eventually.
Yeah.
And so everybody's responsible for it. Everybody wants to point to the other party for it. But, I don't want to upset too many people who like wrestling, but it's like the WWF, okay, or...
Oh, it's felt like this for years. I think everything is turning into the WWE. Everything. It's all like optics and the way things are shot, and this is out there and this is what you believe. It's like interviews that are just to get the hype, and then they off stage, they're all in the, in the locker room, like, rubbing GHB on each other's backs and stuff like that and gramming out.
Let me tell you something that probably will shock your listeners, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Mike Johnson, since he's been the speaker, and he's only been the speaker for less than 2 years, has put 183 Democrat bills on the floor and passed them. What did he trade for that? I thought we were breaking chairs over top of the Democrats' heads in the back room. No, that's not what's happening.
Is that true?
Yeah.
How do I look that up?
Go to congress.gov.
Mike Johnson's out of Shreveport.
Yep. He's the Speaker of the House.
Oh, yeah.
But you can see, if you... I'm not sure how you look it up here at congress.gov, but if you spend enough time here and look at every bill that's passed since he's been speaker, and I'm not talking about the special bills that reassign committee members. I'm talking about bills that do something. 183 Democrat-sponsored bills. And you might say, Theo, well, the Democrats have good ideas, okay? We should put their bills on the floor. Well, if I had a good idea, what Speaker Johnson would do would take that bill from me, put somebody else's name on it, and put it on the floor. If there's something that needs to get done, why would you let a Democrat get credit for it if you're in this mortal combat with the other party?
But has he made a lot of Republican bills pass too?
Yeah, but there's been way more Republican bills than Democrat bills. But why has he even passed one Democrat bill?
Well, I think, don't you want to work with the other team? And it's isn't there diplomacy and everything? You know what I'm saying? You have to there's a give and take to everything, I feel like.
We got the majority. Why are we putting their bills on the floor? Why would we go in that direction? I understand in the Senate you need 60 votes, so you got to have a Democrat.
But some of their bills are good, right?
If Thomas Massie has a good bill, they'll put another Republican's name on it and pass it.
But I can't understand what you're saying here. I guess I'm a little bit confused. Are you saying that Mr. Johnson, who is he's the Speaker of the House, that because bills get brought to him, he puts them on the floor, right? He's the one who's like, okay, let's put this on the floor and take it to a vote, right? And you're saying that he's done that with more Democratic-led bills than Republican-led bills.
No, he's done it with 183 Democratic bills. There's probably been several hundred Republican bills. My question, though, is why would you put one on if you're engaged in this kind of mortal combat for the soul of the country, and he acts like that? It's because people aren't paying attention to what's going on there.
Oh, I agree that I think people aren't paying attention. I think it's all so confusing, I think, to the regular person.
It is.
That it feels like the ship sailed long ago from us being at the dock looking each other in the eyes with some sense of hope.
Congress is this big, giant black box, and people can't see what's going on inside of that black box. They know they're electing their congressman and 2 of their senators and the president, and they're sending them to Washington, D.C., and then they don't understand what comes out of that box. I've been in that box for 12 years.
Okay.
And I think that's sort of what my role has evolved to, which is to just try to tell people what's going on inside of the box so that they can do a better job of picking congressmen and senators.
That's what I always think. I'm like, if somebody would just get elected just to get in there and tell us we don't even fucking... No, we'll buy you a Volvo or whatever. Fucking, you know what I'm saying? We'll give you some Taiwan Semiconductor shares, but just tell us what's happening in there. Somebody fucking look in there and just throw a note out and be like, "Hey, this is what's really going on." And now the problem we start to get into is there's so much pandering and everything, and so much social media used to try and disguise who the messenger is. It really turns into a game, and I think that is one thing that's the only joy of it, is watching the masters of this just Game of Thrones type of energy go on. But
the biggest, I'll tell you right now, this would be 50% of solving the problem. If it's not a silver bullet, but it's a lot of it. Get rid of the giant bills. Okay. The Omnibus Bills, the continuing resolutions, and even the big, beautiful bill. Why not put that shit on the floor one at a time?
I agree.
And then that way, you can go to your representative or your senators and say, why did you vote for that? Right now, they can say, well, Theo, I had to vote for it. I had a pay raise for soldiers, right? They literally will put a pay raise for soldiers in every freaking bill. giant bill, so that if you vote against it, you have to go back home and watch TV ads that say he voted against a pay raise for the soldiers.
Right. Even though he may have voted for 90 other amazing things on the bill, right?
Right.
And that was one thing that was tied in there, that if you went this way,
Yeah.
it may have been like oxygen for grandmothers, right?
Right. Literally, there probably is that in there.
But if you vote for oxygen for grandmothers, then they're not going to give. So I see what you're saying.
I voted against oxygen for grandmothers so many times they can't even run that ad anymore. It doesn't even seem real.
Hotels in Las Vegas may be booked solid this weekend, but there's one vacancy left to be filled. At UFC 317, a new lightweight champ will be crowned. Grab your own crown at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Topuria takes on Oliveira to fill the vacant men's lightweight title, and Alexandre Pantoja defends his flyweight belt against Kai Kara-France in the co-main event. Who am I taking? Why, I'd love to see Oliveira win by submission. First time betting on UFC at DraftKings? Well, just pick something simple like a fighter to win and make your pick. It's that easy. And if you're new to DraftKings, check this out. New customers who bet $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Theo. That's code THEO for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. What happens when your health becomes the punchline? From seed oils to stress, toxins to pollutants, the modern world is screwing with our health at the cellular level, leading to exhaustion, brain fog, digestive issues, and more. But here's the thing. You don't have to settle for feeling like garbage 24/7. Armra Colostrum is nature's original health hack, packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut integrity, strengthen immunity, revitalize hair growth, fuel stamina, elevate focus, and help you function like a human again. I take Armra Colostrum. It's easy. I make my smoothie, I open the packet, bam, put it in there, and I know it's going to help me. We've worked out a special offer for our audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/Theo or enter Theo to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/THEO. It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains squeezed, and cash flow tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you're in a world of hurt. You need visibility, from global shipments to tariff impacts to real-time cash flow. That's NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. Trusted by over 41,000 businesses, NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for many reasons. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one suite. If I needed this product, it's what I would use. It's one system, full control, tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade. 3 insights for leaders at netsuite.com/THEO. That's netsuite.com/THEO. netsuite.com/Theo. Has there ever been a bill that was like, okay, we want to stop these omnibus bills? And bring up omnibus bill. We looked it up the other day when Mr. Vance was here, but I just want to go over it again. An omnibus bill is proposed law that covers a number of diverse or unrelated topics. Omnibus is derived from Latin. It means to, for, by, with, or from everything. An omnibus bill is a single document that is accepted in a single vote by a legislator, but packages together several measures into one or combines diverse subjects. So it's not even really fair because you only get one vote on the bill?
Correct. And so typically an omnibus bill, it includes at least 12 other bills. because the 1974 Budget Control Act, there's a law that says we're supposed to do these bills separately. So we've already tried the law. We already tried that, Theo. They just suspend that rule, those budget rules, every year.
Okay. So, but take me through this moment so I don't stray from it, so people can be, so I can understand it. So, like, give me 2 examples of things that would be on an omnibus bill that would be that there's no way for a voter to win, that there's no way for a representative to vote and win on.
Okay. Well, the easiest, let me just take something topical, the Big Beautiful Bill. Inside of that Big Beautiful Bill is a provision for artificial intelligence corporations that says no
10 years.
For 10 years, no state or locality can regulate them. And then it talks about zoning and routing, which if you know, some of your listeners may have seen this, like locally, some big corporation wants to put a data center in your backyard. Well, that's what Congress is trying to do. They're trying to say that these corporations can override local zoning laws, that the local zoning board should take a back seat and let this big information center show up in your backyard that uses all kinds of water and all kinds of power and puts out all kinds of RF and has, you know.
Oh, yeah, your fucking cousin's going to be walking down the street just fucking, you know, just fucking screaming out Amazon orders, you know? It's going to be, the shit that's going to start happening is going to be crazy. You're literally going to be driving down the road with your windows open and an old gust of 5G remnants from Blockbuster emails that never got uploaded are just gonna pass through your fucking vehicle. Shit's gonna get insane. You're gonna have babies that are born with advertisements, like birthmarks that show up. This is a set of twins with Nike logos on them. What is happening, man?
So that's in the Big Beautiful Bill. Okay. And you can know that's evil. You can know that's bad. And Trump never campaigned on that. But also in that bill is to enforce our borders, okay, to finish the wall.
Right.
So if you're a Republican and you vote for that bill, okay, you supported enforcing the border, but you also let AI basically take over your local and state governments, okay? And then if you vote against it, well, then you're against the AI provision, but oh my gosh, you're for open borders, you know? You don't want to support the military. There was $100 billion in there for the military.
Yeah.
There was, you want to tax seniors. There was a tax cut for seniors. There was an extension of the tax cuts from 2017. I voted for the 2017 tax cuts, but I voted against this 2025 bill because it's got a lot of crap in there that doesn't belong and it's going to balloon our deficit.
Right.
So you can't win for losing. And so I don't blame a lot of my colleagues, like, they come to Congress, they have the best intentions, and you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, this whole game is rigged. How am I going to play it? Am I going to call it out? Will that be the best for my constituents who elected me? Or should I play along? And most of them choose to play along.
Yeah.
And you can't really blame them. They feel like, oh, my fiduciary duty to the people who elected me is to get as much as I can up here. And if I piss off the Trump and I piss off Mike Johnson, I can't get any table scraps. But the reality is they're not even getting table scraps. They are trading. I say every week, congressmen trade their votes for magic beans that never sprout, like Jack and the Beanstalk. He trades a cow for magic beans. The difference is Jack got beans that sprouted. My congressmen, they're not getting gas vouchers. They're not getting a Cracker Barrel gift certificate even.
So explain to me how that part works. So that's a part that I don't understand, because you mentioned it a little while ago. You're like, I could have a bill and I put it forward because Mike Johnson seems like a good guy. He doesn't seem like somebody that would take something that was yours and make it somebody else's. Like, I don't understand what I don't understand what you're saying. Like, how does that work? And take me through, like how can you put a bill out and people would know it's your bill? I mean, obviously, is there information online that says this is a bill that Thomas Massie made, or that any person made, like any representative made?
The other thing they'll do with your bills is they'll stick them in another bill. Okay. I'll give you an example.
Yeah, show me how you're saying that people aren't even getting the scraps or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Take me through some of that.
Well, they're not. Theo, I tell people, I joke with my colleagues up there. They're like, Massie, why? You're not a sellout. I'm just like, I look at them in the eye. I say, I'm the biggest sellout up here. Like, I would sell out for Snickers bar, but you guys aren't even getting a Snickers bar. You're not getting a bridge in your district. You're not getting a new exit off the interstate.
Yeah.
You're not getting anything for your vote. Like, nobody's ever offered me anything up there of value. I don't even know myself. I could be the biggest sellout there is. There's just no trade up there that's worth taking. And so mostly people are trying to stay relevant and get reelected.
Right. That makes perfect sense, right? Everybody's looking out for themselves in a sense. But you would think at some point that even that would lose its appeal. When you look around your town or your community and you see that like, oh man, by not really benefiting the people, it's all falling apart. You know, by not really benefiting the country, it's falling apart. And I'm starting to sound like a downer again. I don't want to do that.
It should.
But take me through what you're talking about. How you put a bill up and it doesn't get labeled yours. So it's plagiarism, or I don't understand what you're saying.
And then if you do get something done by working inside of the system, you won't get any credit for it. So for instance, when Ron Paul left Congress, I came into Congress, and I introduced—
And that's Randy's daddy?
Yep, Rand's dad. I introduced a lot of Ron Paul's bills, and one was the Industrial Hemp Farming Act, because it was illegal. They treated hemp just like marijuana. It was illegal to grow it, according to the federal government. So I introduced that bill, and I got a lot of co-sponsors, and I figured out a way to work with Democrats and get it into the Farm Bill. Now, it was a Republican farm bill that I got it into, but I needed Democrat and Republican votes to do it. And I got it in the Farm Bill. But now, like, people online say, oh, Congressman Massie, and it became law, by the way, and people can grow industrial hemp in all 50 states. That's the end of that's the rest of the story.
Oh, yeah. A lot of chicks that don't wear deodorant are working on those places. And no offense, ladies. I don't mind it. But yeah, no, I'm glad that we have another product in our country, you know?
Right. And so that became law. That was one of my bills, but nobody ever gives me credit for it because it wasn't a separate bill that said, and by the way, I voted for that crap sandwich, the Farm Bill, which is a big giant bill. And then I took crap for voting for that because it had my thing in it, but now I don't get credit for it. But I haven't particularly had bills where somebody took my name off them and put somebody else's name, but my colleagues have.
Okay. So you haven't had that exact thing happen to you for Mike Johnson?
No.
But you've seen it happen?
Yeah.
You're saying?
And if it did, I wouldn't care that much. I mean, if it's a good bill, make it happen. But a lot of people, you know, they need to go back to their district and say, I got this done.
Oh, I see. So a lot of times people don't know from their Congress people or their representatives that they actually got this thing done.
Right.
Right. So there's a communication issue there.
And then there's another thing that happens, like some congressman gets to D.C. and they have this bill they wanted to pass even before he was a congressman. And they say, we'll put your name on it and then you'll get credit for it. And then the congressman has no idea about the subject or anything. So there was a bill that came to the floor. It was about opioids. Okay. And I voted against it. And the sponsor of the bill comes up to me and says, why did you vote against my bill? And I said, well, I'm not against research or things like that at the federal level, but this is basically a form of Obamacare. And I thought we were against that, like, because this had treatment and stuff, which should be handled at the state level. And he looked at me and said, you're right. He said, I'd vote against this too if it weren't my bill. He said, the leadership gave it to me and told me to bring it to the floor and it would help me get reelected.
Wow.
I swear to the Lord above, that is an exact conversation I had on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, I believe you did.
Congressman from Wisconsin. He's still there.
He is?
Yeah.
White guy, I bet, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That was a guess, dude. That was a guess.
By the way, but not to pick on him because that year we passed like 38 opioid bills.
Yeah.
They're all redundant. They just gave everybody they were trying to get reelected, they give them an opioid bill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were renewing more prescriptions for opioid bills than they were opioids. That's the craziest fucking part of it. And the Sackler family never even went to fucking jail. And some people believe that the Sackler family should be electrocuted. Allegedly. I don't know them, and I don't even know if electricity would work on their fucking sick, evil bodies. Is that slander for saying that? Can I go to jail for saying that? That might be a death threat, huh?
You can, but I can't. So maybe I should say it. There's something in the Constitution called the speech or debate clause. And so I can go to the floor of the House of Representatives and lie. I can tell every lie I want and nobody can do anything about it. And it's called the speech or debate clause. Our staff, look this up.
The speech or debate clause found in Article 1, Section 6 of the U.S. Constitution protects members of Congress from being questioned in any other place for their speech or debate in either house. So let me read it again. Protects members of Congress from being questioned in any other place.
Which means you can't be questioned in a courtroom. You can't be sued.
No way.
You can't be. Now read the next sentence, though, because there's a good reason for it.
This clause, rooted in historical struggles for parliamentary independence, aims to safeguard the independence and integrity of the legislative branch by preventing interference from the executive or judicial branches.
So, so when people, even our founders, this is a hard pill to swallow.
Okay.
But even
I'm still a bit confused at this moment.
Well, even our founders thought that there were some laws that shouldn't apply to congressmen because if they did, they would get abused. And like a Democrat president would arrest members of Congress for saying things on the floor of the House. Because that's what the king did back in England. The king would arrest members of parliament if he didn't like what they said.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Or you could get a private individual to sue a member of Congress for something they said, and then that would basically freeze the debate, and members of Congress would be afraid to speak. They would send their speeches to lawyers before they said them, if this didn't exist.
I see what you're saying.
So this is kind of a fascinating little part of our Constitution. And even though it seems wrong to give members of Congress extra First Amendment protection, the founders thought this was the best way to do it.
So you could go to court right now and lie on the stand?
No. I can lie about anything, but I got to be on the floor of the House, or it has to be attached to my official business. So I'm probably covered on social media. Mm-hmm. And I could just say defamatory things about you. I could release national secrets, and this also covers my staff as well.
God, interesting. But am I going to go to jail for calling the Sacklers saying they got electrocuted?
Yeah, probably.
Shit. So what I have to do to bleep it out?
No, you need to run for Congress.
Oh. That's hilarious, dude. And I don't really even say those words myself. I just say that on it's the spirit of hundreds of thousands of opioid addicts who died channeling through me for just a brief second. Forgive me. I'm back.
All right.
It starts to feel like neither party. Wait. So I'm thinking about this. Could Mike Johnson put a bill on the floor about the omnibus thing?
Yeah.
And then we could see who would vote for it and vote against it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He could, but he's not going to.
Right. Because it would be too dangerous.
It's way too dangerous. I mean, the lobbyists love it that way.
Yeah.
They love the opaqueness of that black box that Americans can't look into it and see what's going on. Yeah. Because they're inside the black box. They get to craft language and special provisions in those big giant bills, and they're so big, and we're not given time to read them. But you got to remember, Theo, like a lot of my colleagues wouldn't read these bills even if they were given 3 months to read them. What they're doing by rushing these bills through is they're not hoodooing the congressman, they're hoodooing the public.
Of course. No, I think it makes perfect sense. It's like, because we just send one set of eyes and brain up there to handle something, or a couple sets if you have a few reps. And then but it's so much information at once. It's all the same thing. It's literally like a bus passing by. It's like with a car passing by, you can get an idea of what's on it. You can look at the wheels, you can check the exhaust, might be able to see who's in there. But when a bus goes by, you're like, fuck, I don't know, was a driver awake, That's kind of like, that's how it certainly starts to appear. My question,
and the windows are painted black on the bus.
Oh, yeah, dude. And somebody wrote "just married to a trans man" on the windows with chalk or whatever with window paint. Here's my question. Is anybody representing the people anymore? Because it kind of feels like, it used to feel like the parties were against each other, and now it feels like it's the government versus the people. That's what it feels like.
I think it is. I mean, I call it the Uni-Party. Last year, Marjorie Taylor Greene and I introduced a resolution to oust Mike Johnson. After Mike Johnson put a bill on the floor and was the tie-breaking vote to send more money to Ukraine, after he passed another omnibus, after he passed another bill to spy on Americans, using mostly Democrat votes, because a lot of Republicans are waking up to that and didn't vote for it. After he did like 3 or 4 really bad things, Marjorie and I put a resolution on the floor.
Which you think are bad things, right?
I think they're bad things. Okay. Spying on Americans, sending all the money to Ukraine. Yeah, I think they are. I think they're not Republican priorities. And he's a Republican speaker. So we put a resolution on the floor to vacate the speaker's office. And
what does that mean? To get a new speaker?
Get a new speaker.
Okay.
And typically no Democrat will vote for that. And if he doesn't have enough Republicans to sustain that vote, he will lose and you get a new speaker.
Why would no Democrat vote for that?
Well, for the first time in history, they did. Like, they did vote to keep Mike Johnson because it was as good as they've ever had it. They were getting everything they wanted.
You believe he was helping their party?
Yeah, he was helping their party, so they kept him in power. So it is really hard to change things. You can occasionally get people to try, but the consequences of trying and losing can be great. Like, they call up all the lobbyists and say, quit giving money to that member of Congress. They'll call up donors in your district. They'll call up constituents and have constituents call you up. Or the new thing recently is to fund social media campaigns. The NRCC, National Republican Congressional Committee, they spend money on Twitter influencers who then do things against who knows what. I mean, they're directing them. That part isn't transparent, but it's directed toward me, for instance. Our own party is coordinating efforts against me.
Well, then at that point, that's what I'm saying. There's a party it's them against you,
which is okay. I've got a thick skin,
right? But I'm just saying it feels like it's you guys are playing this game, but it's all against the voter. None of it is for the voter anymore. It doesn't. You know what I'm saying? It's like it feels like, I don't know. It just feels like it's the voter against the politicians, and it just starts to feel really, really scary for sure. Have you thought about becoming an independent, or is that death?
I've thought about it a lot. And one of the things that surprised me when I got to Congress is there's 2 of everything. So there's 2 cloakrooms. There's a Democrat cloakroom.
Wait, say that part again. There's a Democrat
cloakroom and a Republican cloakroom. This is like when you show up to vote, there's a little clubhouse, 2 little clubhouses attached to Congress. You can go back there and get a hot dog and a hot ham and cheese, an ice cream sandwich.
Oh, yeah, get a hot blonde, too, huh?
That is our cloakroom right there on the right.
Is that really?
Yeah. You go back there, although there's some computers as well. That's looking in one direction. If you look in the other direction, there's a sandwich. They're not showing the sandwich bar.
Oh, yeah, I'd love a little.
Oh, there's the sandwich bar. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, God, that's it?
Yeah. Now,
that's are old, huh?
That's the Democrat cloakroom. The Republican one looks just the same.
Okay.
But here's the
Give
thing.
You a little mortadella, huh?
There's only 2 cloakrooms. So if you were truly independent and you came to Congress, there'd be nowhere to get a hot dog or to call. People go in there and call their lobbyist friends. Yeah. Like during votes, you'll get a call and they'll say, hey, don't dare vote for this. Or maybe they'll call up, a member of Congress will go to the cloakroom and call and ask for advice. Any case, there's also things called back rooms on every committee. You've heard of backroom deals? I couldn't believe it. When I got to Congress, people are using the word back room because there are back rooms behind the committee rooms where you go back and do your huddle. But there's only 2 huddles. There's the Democrat huddle and the Republican huddle, and there's only 2 back rooms. So I say if you were an independent, you're going against the architecture. It's not just tradition. It's built into marble and oak. Wow. There can only be 2 parties. That's how strong they have put it in. You know, and if you're bipartisan, that means you like both parties. I say that I'm not bipartisan, I'm transpartisan. Trans means you can't identify with either some days. I don't know which cloakroom to go into. Wow. Some days they don't want me in either cloakroom. So I feel like I'm a transpartisan.
Well, at least you can just be out in the van outside, you know?
That's right. Some days I have gone out to the camper and just like drink some raw milk and just be like, we're so screwed. Let's go back in and try it. But I think it is hard. It would be really hard to have an independent party. Or to get elected as an independent. I think
yes, that's true.
But never forget this. There's really like 6 parties up there in DC, and they've been shoehorned into 2 different cloakrooms.
Right.
And so you got to pick
so either way, if you had a separate party, you're kind of still in one cloakroom or the other. He's kind of still in one huddle or the other.
Yeah. So there's a guy from Maine. His name's Angus King. He's a senator, and he runs as an independent, and he gets elected as an independent, and then he goes in the Democrat cloakroom. So yeah, that's him.
Oh yeah, he definitely looks like a Maine guy.
So he gets elected.
Undeniably wears a raincoat at night.
You may have heard the term rhino. Republican in name only. I have a friend who calls him an INO, an independent in name only, because he gets elected as an independent. And Bernie Sanders did this too. And then caucuses with the Democrats.
You know, I've been involved with different financial groups that sponsor the program over the years, but none has really piqued my interest as much as Acorns. Sometimes it feels like the whole world is trying to spend your money. Your social media is full of ads. Your mailbox is full of credit cards. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to feel like financial wellness is impossible. Acorns gives you small, simple steps to get you and your money on track. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You just need to stick with it, and Acorns makes that easy too. You can create your Acorns account and start investing in just 5 minutes. Yep, I just got my nieces and nephews set up with Acorns, and I couldn't be happier to see them learning how to save. Sign up now and join the over 14 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. Plus, Acorns will boost your new account with a $20 bonus investment. Offer available at acorns.com/Theo. That's acorns.com/THEO to get your $20 bonus investment today. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 4 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/Theo. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or your ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution, helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 9,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/THEO. That's VANTA.com/Theo for $1,000 off. So one of the ways, and I wrote some of my questions down today, one of the big things that people talk about all the time these days are lobbyists, right? And lobbies, and how much of an effect that they have on our elected officials. How much is it? I mean, how much are these PACs really controlling things?
Quite a bit. There's some aspects of lobbying that people don't think about. Like, for instance, I think there are just as many lobbyists over at the White House as they are in Congress. Because
so what do you mean that? Some people are almost just elected lobbyists?
Well, no. They spend their time talking to White House officials. Because even though we're the legislators, the White House sends recommendations for bills. And if the same party is in power in the White House and in Congress, like the big, beautiful bill, for instance, the legislation can initiate over in the White House. And so lobbyists, I'm just saying, if you think of lobbyists talking to your senator and your congressman, they're all over D.C. They're talking to bureaucrats. They're talking to people, cabinet secretaries, because they know it's sometimes easier to get written into the budget if they're over there lobbying. Another thing to know about lobbyists, I mean, there's lobbyists for the Alzheimer's victims or people who have Alzheimer's. There are lobbyists.
Really?
Yeah, there are lobbyists for people with rare blood disorders, okay? There's lobbyists for the Concrete Association. If there is a group of people, they have lobbyists. And so some people's enemies, lobbyist enemies are other people's lobbying friends. Like there are pro-Second Amendment lobbyists who are up there fighting for the Second Amendment. And, the Democrats hate those lobbyists, but those are lobbyists the Republicans kind of like. So the question is, and sometimes my constituents, they don't know how to get to D.C. and how to talk to all the congressmen from Kentucky and both senators. And so they hire lobbyists to come and do that. I don't know that I would outlaw lobbyists. Sometimes they're actually helpful. Like, let's say the concrete lobbyist, you got the concrete lobbyist fighting with the asphalt lobbyists on what's going to be the road surface. Okay. Well, if all you hear is from the asphalt lobbyists, you would just buy asphalt. And then you hear from the concrete lobbyists. And so it's really, to get to the truth, you need adversarial opinions. The problem is, I wouldn't blame the lobbyists for advocating for their group of people. I would blame the congressman who basically put that crap in the bills. And again, I would go back to separating the votes. How do you know that your congressman is sold out to Big Pharma, for instance, if Big Pharma is only one-tenth of the bill?
Right.
And there's pay raises for veterans in there.
So they can hide the fact that they're selling out over here by buying in over here.
Yeah.
God, it almost sounds fun.
Now, there's one group of lobbyists I don't think really should exist or should have access to U.S. offices, and those are foreign lobbyists.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard you talk about this before, and I've heard a lot of people are talking about it now. It's definitely become a hot topic. And AIPAC is one of the big ones. And that stands for American
Israeli political. It's not a fund. It didn't start out as a super PAC. So
Political Action Committee?
Public Affairs Committee. There we go.
Public Affairs Committee. American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
Now, a lot of times PAC stands for Political Action Committee, like you said, but these guys were started before there were Political Action Committees, so it stands for Public Affairs Committee.
Got it.
And they bragged that they've spent more on elections than any other lobbying group.
In the world?
In the United States.
In the United States.
In Congress.
Okay.
They now do have a political action committee, and I forget what the name of it is. So AIPAC has a subsidiary that spends money to basically crack heads of congressmen. So there's two kinds of, by the way, there are two kinds of lobbying groups. There's access lobbying. That's where they're all your friends. They're never mean to you. Even if they don't like you, they'll buy you a steak dinner. And they'll try to get you to hear out their point of view. And they figure, as long as I can get in that person's office, I'm doing well for the people I'm lobbying for. Okay. But then there are confrontational lobbyists like AIPAC. And AIPAC has transitioned into a confrontational lobbying group where if you don't do what they want, they come after you.
Wow. And what does it look like?
They spent $400,000 against me in my last election. And they are basically advertise themselves as just all things Israel. They are lobbying for more money to go to Israel, which all the money we give to Israel is military money. So they are basically lobbyists for the military-industrial complex.
Got it. Understood. So, and I'll ask you some questions about that, the military-industrial complex, in a few minutes. But do you feel like Israel is a fair ally? Are they a good ally for us?
Well,
or is that too general of a question?
Well, I think it doesn't matter. Like, there's no big, giant Great Britain lobby. There's no Australian lobby. There's no German lobby.
Oh, the other countries don't have them?
No, not like this. This is singular. This is unique. I mean, if you're an ally, why wouldn't we work with you? Why do you have to convince us that you're our ally? Why do you have to basically go into every congressional office and convince them? And it's because they want to keep the money flowing. And they've got a good return on their investment. I mean, we send more foreign aid to Israel than to any other country.
Yeah.
They're, like 10 million people or something.
Yeah, I think this year,
Tennessee, I don't know the population in Tennessee, but it's probably about, on that order.
Yeah, I think this year they said we spent like $12 billion, but that's not actual dollars. It's in military aid, right?
Yeah, it's it's dollars
Like
that comes out of the
and
Treasury.
stuff?
Yeah, but it's not like we give them. It's a gift certificate that's redeemable at Lockheed Martin and your local Raytheon.
Okay, got it. So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Why do they have this carve out that's just for them? Like what do we get from Israel, do you feel like?
We got a lot of countries that hate us. Is one of the things we get.
Well, especially right now with this stuff in Gaza, I think it's one of the worst PR campaigns I've ever seen in my life. If they're even, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, I just don't, it gives their government this extremely evil look to me, and I think to a lot of people,
Well, rough numbers, there are 2 million people in Gaza and 50,000 have been killed. That's 2.5%. Like they've killed 1 in 40 people in Gaza. If you did that in the United States, if you did 2.5% of 350 million, it'd be almost 10 million people dead in the United States. Everybody in Gaza is at this point related to somebody who's been killed. Like at least a first cousin you had killed. And then if you say how many have been maimed, it's probably 3 or 4 times that. So everybody in Gaza knows people who've been killed and maimed.
And we're supporting it, right? That's also the part that makes it really tough sometimes to just be a person. It's like our tax money is going towards this. But I just hope that people in some of these other countries know that it's not regular, everyday people who would want to do these things, that it's like governments making these choices and it's corporate interests that make these choices. How would we stop it? Well, do we need this connection with Israel? What is it? No one ever explains what it's for, I feel like, right? That would help everybody have a much better understanding, because it starts to feel like America is just a shell company, an LLC for Israel. That's what it starts to feel like a lot of times, Do you feel like that's realistic, or do you feel like that's off base?
I wouldn't send them a dime. Like that's my position. I don't think whatever we're getting isn't worth it. And don't ask me to articulate the benefit because I think the cost is greater than the benefit. Everybody in Gaza is at this point has to hate Israel, right? And by extension, those bombs, when they see American politicians go over there and like sign the frickin' bombs that are going to kill women and children.
What do we actually? There was just a clip with Ted Cruz that came up. Can you see if you can find that, Trevin? Where Tucker Carlson was interviewing Ted Cruz. Let me see. This is a scary interview. During the Tucker Carlson interview with Ted Cruz, it's confirmed Israel's version of the CIA called Mossad spies. Oh, it's about spying. It's like what we get. Let's just watch it for a second.
Yeah. Does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. and friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
That's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all... Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not...
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that. And
by the way,
I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know, hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get...
What do we get? That's the thing.
It's painful to watch that. So when I'm in a room with somebody and they say, can I talk to you, just frankly, is anybody listening? I say, well, there's 3 nation states plus our own in my phone.
Yeah.
There's going to be Russia, China, and Israel.
They're in our phone?
No, not yours. Like it's a lot of effort to, anybody can be hacked. Okay.
Oh, I thought one of the reasons I got to go to Qatar recently, and I wonder if they hacked my phone. I thought they were good. I don't know if that's crazy.
I think it's probably continuously hacked. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. It just seems like everything's hacked now. I get scared, you know.
But if you're
I play the Israeli national anthem every 45 minutes.
Look, Amazon and Facebook know what you're saying in your phone, right? But probably Israel and Russia and China aren't devoting that effort and internet traffic, which can become detectable
to us.
Right. But you're probably, why wouldn't you be trying to hear what the 535 people in Washington, D.C. who vote on bills, what they are thinking? And then, also there are allegedly some congressmen who indulge in insider trading. But I would guess that there are probably some hackers who are also inside a congressman's phones trying to figure out what the sentiment is in Washington, D.C., and then trading on that.
Wow. So there's always this extra layer kind of going on, it feels like.
Yeah.
But what do you think we get from Israel? I think it's just a big question. I think it's okay as a regular person, and I might get killed or something by Mossad or something, but what do we get from them as a country? Like, that's a big question America has right now. Is there something we just don't see? And if there is, just tell us what it is so we can operate accordingly,
No, I think they're the best lobbying group in Washington, D.C. And the reason they can do it is you have dual citizens, people who are American and Israeli, who are allowed to give money into American politics, and because they're American, and by virtue of that, you're allowed to participate. But if you're a foreign national, you're not allowed to.
So they're one of the few countries that can donate money to what?
To super PACs, to members of Congress.
Other countries are not allowed to do that.
Well, I mean, they could if you were dual citizens, but there's not so many dual citizens, as it were.
But could somebody be a Russian and American dual citizen and serve in a Congress or?
Sure, and donate to congressmen. By the way, I have introduced a bill that would require members of Congress to disclose if they are dual citizens, and I think that's only fair.
Right, because right now you could have allegiance to another country, not just the USA.
Correct. We swear an allegiance when you're a member of Congress to the Constitution. I always like to point this out. We're not swearing it to the country. We're not swearing it to the president. We're not swearing it to our party. We swear it to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And other countries have constitutions too. What if you've taken allegiance to two different constitutions? Like the American, my bill wouldn't even keep you from being a member of Congress. It would just say you have to disclose it if you are. And by the way, it wouldn't necessarily just be Israel members of Congress who are also citizens of Israel. It could be other countries as well. I just think it creates a conflict of interest. And I have to disclose yearly which stocks I own. Mm-hmm. I have to disclose all my personal financial information so that the voters can decide if I am unduly influenced by that conflict of interest. And so that's the structure of my bill. My bill it's an election disclosure. Okay, you're running for Congress.
Bring it up.
Tell us which countries you are
Representative Thomas Massie announces the introduction of H.R. 2356, the Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act. Representative Massie's legislation amends the Federal Election Campaign Act to require candidates for federal office to disclose both their possession of dual citizenship and also the foreign country in which their dual citizenship is held. So right now, people don't have to disclose?
Nope, they don't.
What?
You would have no idea.
Have you seen Spies Like Us, dude?
It's also, by the way, it's a safety net, by the way. If something went really bad, you could just go live in your other country. I think you should be all in for this country.
I agree. This ain't the fucking hokey pokey, dude. I think you got to have both feet in or both feet out. You know what I'm saying, dude? But any country this could happen. It could be. That's not just Israel.
Correct. It could be any country. It could be.
But Israel's the only one that has a big lobby.
So
is there the Russian, like Russia PAC or whatever?
No, there is not. Like I say, there's not even Australia PAC or Great Britain PAC. I mean, because they're natural allies. Why would they have to lobby Congress? They're also not on our teat, like asking for money.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, it's a weird amalgamation of combined interests. There's a military-industrial complex that is all in for everything AIPAC is for. And, and before I banned AIPAC from my office, we used to have conversations that would go something like this. Oh, you should be for the foreign aid that goes to Israel because it all comes back to the United States in the form of military spending. We're buying it all from American contractors. And I'd be like, no, that's not a convincing argument to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't even know what it's about, but it seems like bullshit to me. How does America make money off of war, right? Like, I get that, you know, we sell things, this and that, but how is that such a business, right? You know, it's like, how do we let this happen?
Well, the answer is America doesn't make money off of war. A few people in America do make money off of war, and they make a lot of money off of war. So they want the music to keep going. They don't want the music to stop.
Right.
And as soon as, Biden was serious about getting out of Afghanistan and did get us out of Afghanistan, and we were spending, by the way, we were still spending $50 billion a year in Afghanistan after 20 years. As soon as he got us out of there, guess what? We start spending an average of $50 billion a year in Ukraine. And now that that's winding down, guess what? This thing in Iran is heating up. And regardless of whether our troops engage directly, those are all American munitions. And those stocks are, the people who run those companies are excited that now, as soon as we deplete our stockpiles, we're going to have to fill them back up. Like, it's not like they're holding a bunch of inventory, but the U.S. government does. Ostensibly, those are weapons that are supposed to defend us that are now being used. And so they know we'll buy them back. And I have this theory that there's about $50 billion a year of things that need to get blown up and replaced in order for that segment of the economy to stay healthy. Wow. And then there was a real push to get out of Ukraine, to quit spending money there. And we almost succeeded. Like I said before, the tie-breaking vote was Mike Johnson. The bill passed by just one vote. And a lot of times the speaker doesn't even vote, but he voted in that case to make sure that Ukraine got that money.
But isn't it, I mean, it's also, I think it's admirable that a guy is willing to go against their own party's interests, right? Like, that part to me seems like a part of, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not just to be in line all the time with everything.
Well, that could be me. Right, sometimes, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Oh, yeah. Totally. Yeah, so that's what I think that's a little bit of the thing I don't get about some of this stuff whenever we talk about Mike Johnson is like, if he, like, there's admiration in going against, like, just what your party's going to do, right?
Right. If you're staying true to your party's principles, I think it's admirable. But when you're betraying your party's principles, I don't think it is, because you've campaigned on one thing and now you're doing something different.
Got it.
And the reality is the speaker has so much power up there. He's entraining dozens of more people who rely on him to get reelected. And by the way, the lobbyists, in addition to focusing on the executive branch, they spend a lot of their effort on just the speaker and the speaker's office.
What do you think's kept us in Ukraine so long? I mean, obviously, we want to be supportive of people that are struggling, right? We want to help out people. It feels like as an American, especially, that's part of like our creed, and what you feel in your heart is like if you can be helpful to another group, right? So I certainly see that as something that we want to keep involved in foreign conflicts, even though a lot of times I'm like, why are we involved in these conflicts over there? What is it, I think, that I don't understand maybe about or about Russia and Ukraine? Or do you think that that's part of just the military industrial tab that we have to fill?
I think we have agitated Russia to the point by expanding NATO. We just keep adding countries closer and closer to their backyard that are in a military alliance with us. And the situation in Ukraine, we also toppled their government in 2014. The United States did.
We did?
Yeah.
Bring that up.
Yeah, bring that up. You can see that the government changed there, and we had our hands all over that.
Let me see. In 2014, Ukraine experienced a period of intense political upheaval culminating in the removal of President Viktor Yanukovych. The event, often referred to as the Revolution of Dignity or Euromaidan, involved widespread protests against Yanukovych's policies, particularly his decision to reject a trade agreement with the European Union in favor of closer ties with Russia. So we didn't want him to have closer ties with Russia, so we overthrew them?
Yeah, I mean, we went in and fomented those protests. Our CIA did, our State Department, Victoria Nuland was part of that.
So this was just another thing. You think we started laying the seeds in advance to get to this point?
Yeah, I don't think it would have ever happened if we weren't involved in fomenting this and then talking about bringing them into NATO after we poked Putin in the eye here.
And the whole point was just to get to a war to help fill out the tab, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a part of it. Like that's sort of Massie's law. There has to be $50 billion of stuff that gets blown up that is made by American military industrial complex in order to keep them going. And if it's not, they'll just spend more effort in making that happen.
Got it.
Rather than go out of business.
Yeah. Oh, I think once you get used to something, you get used to it.
Oh, here's the thing I was going to say before. When we got close to not funding Ukraine under Mike Johnson, the Biden administration sent a letter to Congress, to each of us. Everybody in Congress got one of these letters, listing all the states who had, they call it the defense industrial base now because military industrial complex has a bad connotation.
You need rebranding.
Yeah, so it's DIB. DIB, the Defense Industrial Base. They showed how almost every state in the Union benefits from military spending and why you should, and that was their argument. Not that there was some noble cause or to help out a struggling group of people, like you said. The argument that the Biden administration was making was it was in congressmen's the financial best interests of their districts in order to vote for this bill.
So at least now they're just saying it's a business.
Yeah, I give them an A for honesty. Yeah.
They're at least saying,
feed the machine.
Yeah, feed the machine. But doesn't that also cost human lives? Like if our military has to get involved?
It does. That's the, these now they're supposedly sanitary wars where our kids don't have to die. But I think it's disgusting when, we've had members of the Senate at least say, that this is great, we're grinding down Russia's military capability and we don't have to spill any of our blood. But I mean, how perverted is that? That you're grinding up Ukrainians' bodies in order to grind up Russian bodies and that somehow that's in the best interest of the United States. I'll give, I don't want to say his name, but I'll give that senator credit for being honest at least. But I think it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just have so much capability to manipulate so many situations, and I don't understand, actually, it's silly to say I don't understand anymore if I believe that part of the military-industrial complex or the defense
industrial base
needs to keep collecting, It makes sense. It's a business. Everything that's one of the downsides of capitalism, I guess, in a weird way is that everything kind of can become a business, even like the beauties of trying to be supportive of other countries or trying to help out people,
and that's in addition to the $1 trillion a year we're now spending on the military in the United States. That's about what Congress allocates. And this is all catching up to us because now the interest that we're paying is about $1 trillion a year. So because we've engaged for 2 or 3 decades in all of these overseas wars, we've racked up such a tab that we're paying more in interest than, there you go, than we are in the military industrial complex. And on the screen there it says $849 billion. Don't forget there's another $100 billion in the big beautiful bill that they snuck in there, and they sneak in another $50 billion somewhere else. So it's about $1 trillion. But look up the interest on the debt now too.
The interest on the debt, it matches our GDP right now.
The interest,
I think it's about 35 trillion a year is our.
That's the debt, but the interest on the debt matches how much we spend on all of our defense. It's $1 trillion. If you look up interest, what's the interest on the debt last year?
That's insane. Do you think that we should have a war with Iran? I know you and Ro Khanna, which is so crazy that he was here the other day and then here you are, because it was just like, what are the odds?
Right. And no, we didn't plan that because we didn't know Israel was going to bomb Iran and that.
Oh, no. A month ago, I knew that you were probably going to come. We've been talking about it. But then he and I just decided like 5 days ago. So it was just crazy. Before I even knew that the bill that you guys had put that together. He said that made it so that there had to be a 15-day moratorium before you went to war. Is that correct? Can you explain it to me?
No, that we can get a vote within 15 days of this bill being introduced, unless Speaker Johnson does something sneaky. So there's a law that says if Ro Khanna and I, in which we did, introduce this war powers resolution, the law says that Speaker Johnson needs to bring this to the floor for a vote if the committee doesn't act on it. And the committee's not going to act on it. By the way, I introduced this on Tuesday, and it's just been a few days. We have 37 co-sponsors already. Now, whether you think we should be engaged in a war with Iran or not, I would hope that your listeners understand that or agree that it's important that their members of Congress vote on whether that happens or not. And just to give you some historical perspective, before George Bush Sr. attacked Iraq, there was a vote of Congress to do that. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was to authorize use of military force. Before George Bush Jr. went into Afghanistan, there was a vote of Congress. And before we went into Iraq again, there was a vote of Congress. What's being discussed right now in the news is this notion that the president could just join in on the bombing of Iran without a vote of Congress. The Constitution requires Congress to vote. Like, that's our authority, is to declare war.
So why do you need this bill then if it's already a law?
Well, this is prescribed by that law. Basically, somebody has to bring it to a vote.
I see.
And so I stepped up and I asked Ro Khanna if he wanted to join me on this, and he did. And we've been collecting like a dozen co-sponsors a day since then.
So it's you guys just saying, hey, guys, we have to vote on this.
We have to vote.
They can't just say it and we have to do it.
Correct.
Right.
And what's funny is whenever it's the other guy in the White House, if a Democrat's in the White House, Republicans, and the Democrat wants to wage war, the Republicans agree with this principle that I'm saying. And if it's a Republican in the White House,
it's the other way.
It's the other way. The Democrats agree with the principle that Congress needs to vote on it. But we've got this interesting situation where there's a Republican in the White House and Republicans control Congress. And so I don't have a single Republican co-sponsor for my bill yet for two reasons. Number one, they're afraid of AIPAC, the American Israel
because
Israel
wants it. Netanyahu's been wanting to fight over there forever.
Yeah, for 2 decades.
I know there's videos of him saying like how he's been wanting to. I've seen it anyway. It could be AI. I have no idea.
No, it's real. For 2 decades, he's been saying they're weeks away from a nuclear weapon.
So do you believe
by the way, even if they are. Pakistan's got a nuclear weapon. India's got a nuclear weapon. Nobody's talking about bombing them.
Yeah.
And the other reality is, look, South Africa, people forget this, used to have nuclear weapons. A country of 30 million people developed nuclear capability on their own in the 70s. Like, we need to be preparing to defend our own country.
I agree. I don't know what the fuck we're doing over there. I don't understand it. And we've almost dug so many holes over there. And it's like, it just feels so far away from people. Like, why is it over there starting all this shit, and when we have problems in our own country, and they're basic problems, and they never get solved. It's the same thing. Instead, like, Hollywood creates, like, what about the Diddy trial? That'll keep you entertained for fucking 3 months, or like, here's some shit. Here's a pedophile, it's always the same fucking thing.
I call those weapons of mass distraction.
Yeah.
There's always a weapon of mass distraction that comes up.
Do you think that Trump wants a war in Iran?
No, I don't. I actually don't. And I've talked to him on the phone about this. Do you remember there was a general from Iran called Soleimani who was basically taken out while he was in Iraq during the first Trump presidency.
Bring up Soleimani.
Yeah.
Ooh,
there you go.
Interesting looking guy. He almost looks like two different people put into one head.
So they took him out when Trump was president.
Was he a good guy or bad guy?
Bad guy.
Okay.
Okay. And then, and I'm not here to litigate that, but Trump was talking about attacking Iran after that. I think they shot down one of our drones. And so tensions were escalating, and the Democrats put a bill on the floor to say that you can't go, basically like my bill this time, says you can't go to war without a vote of Congress. And I was one of 3 Republicans who voted for that resolution, but Trump found out I was going to vote for it, and he called me up and tried to talk me out of voting for it. And in that conversation, we talked about war with Iran, and he genuinely, I do believe he genuinely didn't want war with Iran. His argument to me was that if Congress gave him the authority to threaten them, that he could keep us out of a war with the threat.
Oh, I see. So that's a strategy.
It is a strategy. The problem with the strategy, I told him, was, okay, if I vote to give you that authority to declare war or on your own, preemptively Congress.
How do I know it will happen?
Well, what if they call your bluff? And then now we're in a war and I don't get a chance to vote on it because I just said we don't need to vote on it. And he was not happy with that reasoning, but.
Well, because I guess his thought would be, well, if I tell you I'm not going to do it no matter what, then why wouldn't you support me, probably?
Yeah. But you can't know that he won't. And by the way, he told me, he said, I'm more libertarian than you are.
Oh, yeah, really? Oh, man. Donald Trump is an interesting guy, man. What an anomaly of a human being, I think.
He is. There'll never be another person like him, particularly not one that becomes president. And I've been on his good side and I've been on his bad side. And it seems like every couple years it flips.
Yeah, I saw, didn't you get uninvited to the picnic or something? Was that a thing was that a real thing that happened?
That was a real thing that happened.
A meme about it or something, that you got uninvited to the...
At the last minute, I got re-invited. But this goes back to 2020 during COVID. I was the only one who said, this CARES Act is going to bankrupt the country. Basically, it's going to cause massive inflation and shortages. So I opposed that. And the president called me. He was upset with me that I would force Congress to return during COVID and vote. And basically all I said was, look, this was during COVID. They wanted to spend $2 trillion by unanimous consent. I said, if truckers have to work and farmers have to work and nurses have to work, why doesn't Congress show up and vote on this?
Yeah.
So at the time, he called me a third-rate grandstander and said I should be thrown out of Congress. The media immediately descended on me and said, what did I have to say for myself? Because he was tweeting all of this. And they said, well, I'm at least second-rate. Come on.
Help me out here.
2 years later, he endorsed me for a re-election. And then most recently, Bobby Kennedy, joined a coalition with the president for MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. And you can do that through the National Institute of Health and FDA and CDC and all that, but also our food supply is a big important part of that. So Bobby Kennedy was advocating for me to be the Secretary of Agriculture. And he and I have been talking about it for weeks. This was before Trump won the election last fall.
And there's a lot of agriculture out of Kentucky. That would have been great.
It would have been great.
Would it be something you were interested in?
Yes, definitely. Because I think there are a lot of things we could do to basically reinvigorate and empower small farmers to make healthy food and grow local economies, things like that. And so I was all in, and Bobby Kennedy's team spent a lot of time on it. And I told him, this was like in October before the election. I said, I think there's one problem with your plan. And he said, what's that? And I said, I've not endorsed Trump. And he said, well, it sounds like you need to endorse Trump.
Do you think that was a strategy, or do you think that it was?
No, he was genuine.
Yeah,
and
I would think
and
so.
I agreed with him. So I said, well, how do we announce it? And he said, well, come out to Wisconsin Tuesday, and Tulsi and I are doing this rally, and just come up on stage and announce it there. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want to go to Wisconsin in October to do this because I had a lot of other things on my plate at that time. And so I put it off for a day. I did look at plane tickets to go to Wisconsin. I typed out an endorsement of Trump on my iPhone, read it back to myself, and I woke up the next morning and I thought, oh, God, this is the day. I got to do this. So Trump, when my wife passed away last summer, he had left a very nice message. I would have obviously taken his call, but I was inundated with calls, but he left a really nice message of condolences.
That was thoughtful of him.
And so it was, and that's a side people don't see, right? I actually campaigned for Ron DeSantis, and Trump felt compelled to leave that message, even though I hadn't endorsed him. It was a very thoughtful message. So I sit down, I'm in a hotel in Orlando, and I woke up and I went and I listened to that message, and I thought, all right, I'm going to talk to his staff about going to Wisconsin and doing this endorsement. So I dialed the number, and on the second ring, I hear, "Hello, this is Donald." And I was like, oh shit, that's his cell number. And he's like 2 weeks from prison or president. Nobody knows.
That's
and
awesome.
he's
That's
taking my
crazy.
call.
It's America.
And I was taken off guard because I thought, I was like, oh,
Now what do you do? What did you freaking do, Thomas?
I'm sitting here in my boxers in a Marriott.
Oh,
like,
God. At least go outside and stand up. You weren't sitting down, were you?
No.
Because your audio, your volume's better if you walk around where you're talking to somebody.
So the first thing I did was to thank him for leaving the message.
Oh, that's good.
About my wife.
Buy a little time.
I hadn't done that yet. And he said, "That's a hard one. That's a very hard one. You know, Arnold Palmer, he played around a lot, but he did love his wife. And when she passed away, it almost killed Arnie. I mean, it was tough on Arnie, but he's a tough cookie. You're a tough cookie too. And, you're like Arnie. You'll get through this." And then he goes, "I take it back. You're much tougher than Arnie ever was." So then he goes, "You're a sharp cookie too. You know, you went to MIT. My uncle, Professor John G. Trump, taught at MIT for 41 years. It's a record." Then he said,
"Oh, what a god! What a
I've got the best genetics."
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wait, this guy is 2 weeks away, and he's got to be busy, right?
Yeah.
This is the election of his life. And so I thought, at some point they're going to grab him and say, "Look, who are you talking to? You got to get back to work."
Yeah.
So I said, "Well, the reason I'm calling you is I've seen it's close in these purple states, and there are a lot of independents and libertarians who could be influenced perhaps, and I'd like to endorse you." "Oh, this is wonderful. This is great. This is tremendous." And I said, "Well, how do we get it out there?" And he goes, "Oh, just tweet it. I'll retweet you." So I saved myself a trip to Wisconsin.
Oh, that's nice, dude.
Yeah.
I love going to Wisconsin. Was it in La Crosse?
I don't know where it was.
Oh, you missed out, I think.
So he goes, I spoke at the Libertarian National Convention. Yeah, there it is. There's a sentence in here I got to explain. Okay. So he goes, "I spoke at the Libertarian Convention and they loved me." He said, "When I mentioned I was going to free that kid that's been locked up 100 years, they all applauded." And
Who was that? Not Travis Scott or something?
Ross Ulbricht. So I said, "Oh yeah, he's in for 2 life sentences plus 40 years for running a website." And he said, "Yeah, put that in your endorsement. The libertarians will love it."
Oh, really?
So
he
if
really
you look,
thought of that?
I'm like, he will make America healthy. He'll save America, secure our liberties. I said, and he'll free Ross Ulbricht.
Wow. So a lot of people are like, "We'll take it."
Yeah. Ross's mom called me and thanked me for that. And then
Is he out?
Yeah.
Wow.
I took him to the State of the Union.
Is he a cool guy?
He's a super cool guy. And he never should have been in prison for as long as he was.
Yeah, what did he get locked up for?
Running a dark web website called Silk Road that allowed people to buy and sell things on the internet.
Oh, yeah, and they started selling
illicit.
dope and shit on there, and people
Yeah.
are dying.
Yeah. So
I say,
so that's what.
he's holding for a year.
But I mean, that's the thing.
But
Ross
it's like
said,
you can't lock him up. If you can't lock him up and not lock up.
all the perpetrators on the website are free, right?
No, I'm talking about you can't lock him up and not lock up the Sackler family, though.
You keep going back to that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, they're the family that did the opioid epidemic or whatever.
Oh, okay.
They're the Purdue Pharma family.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. So anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. They're just like mass murderers or whatever. Oh, I mean, they're allegedly mass murderers that are still wandering around.
So anyways, the thing is, so I said, all right, I'll put that sentence in. I want to run this by you. And he said, here, I give it to Dan Scavino. He's on the plane with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's on a plane? He's talking to me. He said, we're going to go tape the Joe Rogan show.
Oh, really?
Then he I can hear him hand the phone.
Oh, that was right before the election, dude.
Yeah. He hands the phone to Scavino and he's like, I don't think he knew I could hear him, but he goes, Dan, this is a tough cookie. It's Thomas Massie. Don't screw this up.
Oh.
So then we worked out the endorsement. And
that's pretty cool, huh?
it was cool because instead of like a bunch of staff trying to figure out what to do, I just called him.
Yeah.
And we got it done in like 5 minutes. Right. But, and I did endorse him. And then I'm not the ag secretary, but that's okay. I'm happy where I'm at. I would have done it if he needed somebody to do it.
But are you guys at odds, do you feel like? Or do you feel like there's so much going on in his world?
Well, he came over to Congress a few weeks ago.
Okay.
To whip us on the big, beautiful bill.
And so when that happens, you guys all get together in a room and he gets to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
200 people in the room.
Okay. And so he's petitioning for the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah. He's telling us how great it is. And then he says something about me. And then he realizes I might be in the room. He said, is Tom Massie in the room? And I raised my hand and he looked at me. He said, you know, the thing about Tom Massie is he's very much like Rand Paul. They're both from Kentucky. You can never get them to vote for anything. And they got the same hair.
That's pretty true, huh?
Then he goes, actually, I like Massie's hair better. So all my colleagues, they were approving of me that day.
That's hilarious.
So
yeah, some people hate Donald Trump. Some people love Donald Trump. I just think you cannot deny that he is there is nobody like him.
There's two forms of Trump derangement syndrome, though. There's the kind where you hate him so much it's irrational, and even if he's for something you support, you still be against him. And a lot of liberals have Trump derangement syndrome, and some Republicans.
Well, that's a general thing. I think that's just a political derangement syndrome too. I mean, I have friends that it's like you could show them the same exact thing, but if it's a Republican saying it or a Democrat, and they'll choose the other side, you know?
Well, that's why there's the other version of Trump derangement syndrome, which is you love him so much that when he goes against something he said he would do, or he does something that's against your principles, you change your own principles to support him. And I think that's just as dangerous. And I try not to have either of the Trump derangement syndromes. Yeah. So just be for the people of Kentucky.
Yeah, look, Kentucky derangement alone is, that's a pretty good, you know what I'm saying? That's not a bad, you know, that's its own special 150 proof derangement right there, you know? It's one of a kind.
I'm a man of my people.
It's one of a kind. You know what's one of the most beautiful places I've ever done a show was
Pikeville,
Kentucky.
Yeah, Eastern Kentucky.
It was a tough show. It was just, I don't know if it was the acoustics place we played, but it was a beautiful little city, great crowd. I mean, beautiful big town. I mean, one of the most beautiful places I think I've ever been. It just blew my mind of what it even was.
See if you can find a picture of Lewis County, Kentucky. That's where I'm from. It's that's the town I grew up in right there.
What is that?
I believe that's Vanceburg.
That's Vanceburg?
Yep. And the courthouse with the red roof on the left with the columns.
Oh, yeah.
There's two courthouses, but one on the left, my grandfather hauled the stones for that courthouse that were quarried locally.
Dude, that is cool. How big is that place?
It's about 2,000 people.
Hell yeah. Perfect size.
It's the county seat. It's the biggest town in the county. So you go there to buy beer and to go to church and to put your money in the bank or get a loan.
Amen. Lewis County.
Yeah.
So that's the town is called Lewis County, or the whole county is 12,000?
The whole county is about 13 or 14,000 people, and Vanceburg used to be 2,000. It's probably 1,500 people now. But that's where I grew up, and this is a true story. When I went to MIT, which is in Cambridge, Massachusetts, across the river from Boston, you can see in Vanceburg, there's no crosswalks. We had one stoplight, and I lived there until I was 18. Then I would go to Massachusetts, never visited in my life. And I landed on a plane. I'm going through a crosswalk, with the signs that say walk and don't walk. Mm-hmm. And a car honked at me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've been here 6 hours and already run into somebody from Kentucky. And I waved at them because I thought the car honking knew me. No, they were pissed. They were waving back with one finger because I was walking against a don't walk or something.
Get out the street, honking. That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, man, going from a small town to a big place is definitely fascinating, man. It's definitely.
It was intimidating. Like to go from that little town where everybody says, oh, you're uneducated, you're backwards, you don't know anything. Oh, yeah. I went to public school, K through 12 there. Oh, and then to go to MIT with all these kids from private school and Bronx Science.
Were you just people must have think you was a real nerd or whatever.
Oh, I was a nerd. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I built little science projects in my room and, that was basically my ticket out of Appalachia.
Yeah.
And went to MIT and started a company there. It was actually a virtual reality interface that I invented that lets you touch three-dimensional objects and raised $32 million of venture capital.
Oh, my God.
From people like J.D. Vance.
Yeah. Well, dude, have you seen, and some of your story is similar to Mr. Vance's, I think, in some ways, It's like, and you don't hear a lot of stories about I think that they happen, but you don't hear that many of them, and maybe it's just because we don't talk to as many politicians that are usually politicians were always on C-SPAN or somewhere where you didn't really get to envelop much of their story. I think by JD having that movie that came out about him probably helped.
The book, he wrote the book. And it rings true for me. He went to New England to school. I went to New England from school. I didn't know what to do with the place setting of silverware. Mm-hmm. I was waving at cars that honked. But I tell JD, when he was a senator, we met a few times to talk about the Ukraine issue and things like that. But I told him, I said, JD, you've appropriated my culture. I'm from Vanceburg, Kentucky, literally Vanceburg. And you're from Ohio, and you're saying you're a hillbilly. He's part of the hillbilly people that, my people, that left and went to Ohio. So
right.
I have a brother and a sister. They both went to Ohio.
There was a big migration. Why was it? Was it to work in the mills?
It was, there were shoe factories. Some of them went to Detroit to work at car factories.
But it was for employment.
Employment.
Yeah.
And this continued for generations as coal went down. But we said they teach you 3 R's in Eastern Kentucky: reading, writing, and Route 23.
Oh, yeah.
Route 23 runs north, crosses the river, and goes up from Portsmouth to Columbus and on up that way. So the difference between JD and I is my mammal didn't drop F-bombs. He had, I will say, he probably had a rougher upbringing with, his single mom and whatnot. So he had to overcome a lot.
Yeah, I think JD's a great speaker. He's an interesting guy, I've enjoyed the opportunity to even get to talk to him. The simple fact that even somebody like me is even getting to talk to him, I think it's all kind of fascinating.
I think it's great. I think he's over there biting his tongue so much, though. Because when you're the vice president.
Oh, it did feel different when I spoke with him the first time than the second time.
And he's a good guy. He's texted me since.
Oh, I agree.
Since he's been vice president. And he's a good guy, but I'm sure he's biting his tongue on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I bet it's interesting, I bet the plot thickens, I bet the plot really, really thickens. You talked about working in virtual reality. How crazy, I feel like now, did you see Iran did that, there was a military video that they had pushing their military. It was and we'll be done in a few minutes. See if you can bring that up. It was, did you see now it's there's PR videos for war and shit now. What is even, look at this shit. Zoom in. This is what they ran. This looks like a video game. Look at this. I feel like it's just getting really bizarre. Look at that. I mean, that's good. But I think it's like, now I feel like we're getting so close to, you're going to be able to subscribe online and watch a stream of a war. Like you're going to be able to have drones that are in the air watching war, right? Like probably Palantir drones or some company in the air, and you can stream it from home, you know?
But wouldn't it be better if just like the drones killed the other drones and people didn't get killed? And maybe it's virtual reality, and who can build the best army in VR? That would be a lot better way than killing people.
I agree. I think it's like you're going to be able to, it's going to be like, shit is just, like you said earlier, everything feels merging. It doesn't even feel real anymore. That's how unreal shit is. It doesn't even, you can barely tell as a regular semi-ignorant person the difference between what's real and what's not anymore. And that's when things get bizarre. It's like, I feel like next week, like iShowSpeed is gonna like compete against Netanyahu's son or whatever that lives, I think in LA or somewhere, and they're gonna compete, and like the winner gets to live in like one of those like Congo cobalt mines where they're making iPhone like parts. It's just, you're just like, what the fuck is happening anymore?
It happens on both sides though, and truth is the first casualty of war. And you saw, like, there was the Ghost of Kiev. Remember when that came out, and there was supposedly this aviator in Ukraine that was shooting down all these Russian jets. Yeah.
Oh, it was lore.
Yeah, it was all Kiev. Yeah, it was all made up.
Popular but ultimately mythical Ukrainian fighter pilot, an urban legend that emerged during the early days of the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, said that a single MiG-29 pilot was shooting down multiple Russian aircraft, becoming a symbol of resistance. Yes.
So, and that was being reported as a real thing, and congressmen were falling for that. And so I have tried to be very judicious in all the videos I watch of everything that's coming from all the countries, whether it's Iran or Israel or our own. And I actually caught the IDF, this is Israeli Defense Forces, using a clip that was from last year, trying to make it look like that was Israel being bombed this week. And this is one of the fun things about being a congressman with 1.3 million followers. Like, I pointed it out, and people started looking at it and comparing it to the video from 9 months ago, and they got community noted, the IDF, for putting out a fake video. They didn't have to. I mean, there's plenty of live footage, but they fell for it. Like, we're in a loop. We're consuming stuff on the internet, and the loop has been completed when the Israeli government consumes YouTubes that aren't real and then puts them in their videos.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see them doing it just because, but yeah, I think it's definitely, the loop is like, we're spinning the loop so long we're dizzy. That's where it feels like we are.
If you can step out of it, like, I haven't had a TV in 20 years because
you're not missing anything.
It just reinforces the false. There we go.
Breaking Bad was good.
Did they? And
oh yeah, who knows?
See?
Yeah, you can't tell what's really more raw footage. Iran.
There's the two videos. Look, that's the one they put out that said was happening in the past hours, right?
Okay.
Now look at the other one. The clouds are the same shape. The missiles are in the same formation. And that was a YouTube from 8 months ago.
Wow.
But the reason I caught it and nobody else did was I was trying to verify everything before I took it as real.
Yeah.
And I saw that video from 8 months ago and figured out it was fake, but the IDF didn't. Or maybe they did, and it just was more dramatic than the footage they had.
That could be more, but that sounds slightly more possible. But what do I know? I don't know anything. I know this, dude. What can we do? What can voters do anymore? Does it matter anymore what we do, or are we done?
It does matter.
Does local level matter more than ever? Local level voting, or what matters? Like, what can we do?
So the congressman before me in my district got a call at home one night, and this older lady was upset that her trash hadn't been picked up. And he's a U.S. congressman. He said, "Ma'am,
picked it up."
He said, "No." He said, "I'm your U.S. congressman. I'm not involved with the trash pickup. Did you think about calling your county commissioner?" And she said, "I was going to do that, but I didn't want to start that high up."
Yeah.
So, I think local is. I started out in local politics, and the local officials have way more impact on your life than the federal government does. And so I would take time and pay attention and vote locally. And those are also people you can go find. When I was a local government official and we would stop at the grocery store to buy milk, my kids would beg my wife to go in to pick up the milk because I'd be in there 2 hours and somebody talked to me about a pothole and somebody talked to me about some weeds that need mowed at the intersection, and I wouldn't get out of there. Now that I'm a congressman, I can buy milk anywhere. Nobody cares. They know Congress can't get anything done.
Right.
And so I think the people have figured it out. Definitely pay attention local. When you do pay attention federal, don't get distracted by the weapons of mass distraction. Don't call Nancy Pelosi. You're not going to change her mind. Only call people you can vote for because the people taking those calls know that, and they'll discount everything you say unless you're a constituent. So everybody has 2 state senators and 1 U.S. representative. So you only need to make 3 phone calls. I wouldn't write them a letter. I wouldn't waste time on email. I would make a phone call, and more likely than not, a real person in that office will pick up the phone and talk to you. And it'll be somebody who does talk to the congressman. Like we have a staff of about 12 to 24 people. And I say hi to those people that you are talking to every day. Now, I don't know that all congressmen are this diligent, but I have them write down who called about what and how many calls we got. Some days I get 1 phone call, and it's from the same guy that calls every day, right? Yeah. Michael. If Michael doesn't call, we ask the local sheriff to go do a wellness check.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be a frequent flyer. Don't call up your congressman and say, I'll never vote for him again if he votes this way, because then they never have to take you seriously. But I would call up. I would only call people you can vote for, and be polite, be quick, get off the phone. The next one, people, I see people come up to lobby, let's say for their grandma who has Alzheimer's, and they spend $300 on a plane ticket, a couple $100 on a hotel room. The food is expensive in DC, and they finally get to their congressman's office and they talk to a staffer.
Yeah.
That to me is a waste of money. I would find that congressman locally and take half of what you would have spent on the trip to DC. And if you could stomach that person's politics, make a donation. That's why the lobbyist has the ear. I'm not saying America has to compete with lobbyists for giving money, but I will tell you this. If you give a politician $500, you won't have to ask for his phone number. He'll be calling you every week.
Thinking about what do I need next?
Asking for more of it.
Damn.
And so
but that's where we're at,
that's where we're at.
Because we just have to compete. Money has to compete with money, you think? Dark money?
It doesn't have to compete, but you got to figure out a way to get their attention. If it's whatever the minimum is to get in the door, that fundraiser. If it's $50, don't give them $500. Give them $50 and go in and just talk to them like a human being if you can.
But at a bigger level, like, will we ever get these lobbyists out? Is it just a wrap? What do we tell us if we all just...
Here's the way you break free. No. Well, you should definitely go to the beach and only spend about no more than 10% of your life thinking about politics, because it ain't healthy.
Amen.
But the 10% that you do, you should ask your congressman to advocate for separate bills on separate topics.
Yeah, I agree. That seems way more pertinent, because then there's a level of accountability.
Yeah, and they can't hide behind, it had a pay raise for soldiers.
Right.
So advocate for that, make phone calls. If you can be friendly and connect with them, maybe you don't agree with them on everything, but a broken clock is right twice a day.
Some diplomacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big thing I've been learning recently, is that there's a give and take to everything, everything, and that's the way that the world's built. There's there's forces, there's a give and take, there's a yin and yang. And even when you have, you want this party or this thing, it's like, there has to be you really need both forces a lot of times to get things done. I think that's about it, man. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, I did want to say, we were supposed to talk to Mr. Walls this week, Tim Walls, on Thursday, because I have a show up there, but he he is unable to go because of they're doing services and stuff for that. His constituents or his colleagues maybe that were murdered up there.
It's
pretty heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
And he seems like a guy with a big heart too.
I get death threats. I mean, and the hard part is knowing which ones to take seriously and which ones not. I mean, it's definitely not the right way to do politics. It's just there's no level of frustration that justifies violence.
Yeah, I mean that just seems really bizarre. I remember there was rumors that whenever your wife passed away, that there was like something bad had happened, like from a not a deranged person or something like that. Was that real?
She died unexpectedly, but of natural causes. And I wasn't home. I was in D.C., which kills me to this day. But my son was home visiting, so we know exactly what happened. There's no conspiracy there. Although,
sorry to even ask you about it.
Well, no, I think it's good because people ask that. People want to know that. I tell people she would get a kick out of it.
Yeah,
she would.
Everybody wants to be a part of. Yeah, like anyway, that's
that there was a conspiracy, but I'm sure she's up there laughing at that one.
Well, I know it's coming up on a year since she's been gone, and just. Sorry to kind of, maybe that was a little out of the box to say that, but I'm sorry you and your family had to go through that. So I appreciate you being brave and still being able to honor your constituents and your group, even in the face of those types of things, and still be able to show up and do your best and be a maverick. I think for her spirit and for the people of our country. I think that's one thing that's inspiring. Some people were like, well, this guy's nuts or this guy's great. But I'm like, at least this guy's his own fucking guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather talk to that guy any day of the week.
Well, the other conspiracy that's interesting to me is people say, oh, he snapped. Like he's lost his marbles since he lost his wife. And he's off the chain, et cetera, et cetera. No, I'm actually honoring what she wanted. Like, she worked at home on our farm and raised 4 kids. She also had an MIT degree.
Oh, wow.
And she was watching me from afar every day. She would watch hearings and give me advice for questions to ask.
That's
and
sweet, huh?
She wanted me to go up there and kick ass every week, and that's what I do. And I'm still going to do it. I remember one time I introduced a bill to legalize raw milk, like the kind I got out there in my camper
I'll
truck.
take another swig off that thing as long as you leave the door open while we do it.
Right. We had alarms going off in there. The gaydar in my camper was going off when
dude,
you went in there.
2 men got in that thing and suddenly an alarm went off. I was like, this is a little too Republican for me. This is a little too old school Republican for me. If 2 men can't even casually drink raw milk together in the back of a truck camper.
I know. So I introduced a raw milk bill to legalize raw milk. And, oh, yeah, there we go.
Oh,
and,
this is in honor of her, kind of?
Well, she was still alive, and I introduced this bill, and guess who came after me? The milk lobbyists came after me. They said there wouldn't be enough hospitals to take care of all the people
who got sick from raw milk.
Who were going to get sick from raw milk.
Is that true, do you think?
Oh, hell no. I drink it every day. I know thousands of people that drink it every day.
I'm going to catch a fucking batch of it. It always looks like it's a little warm.
No, I pour mine in an ice cold glass. But anyways, and it tastes like just liquid ice cream.
Oh,
it's
God.
so good.
I'll come have a little bit more.
All right. Well, so I did this bill, and the milk lobby comes after me, and my wife had Google alerts on or whatever alerts there were. And it's like all this negative press over milk. And she texted me, OMG, I didn't realize the lactose lobby was this intolerant.
Well, I think even just the name of the lactose lobby was this intolerant. That's cute. What was her name, your wife?
Rhonda.
Yeah.
Well,
we miss you, Rhonda. Just a nice thought of you there and a nice story. I love the fact that that's called the Interstate Milk Freedom Act, which sounds insane, dude.
Right?
It sounds like something that happens at a rest area, you know? That's the problem with it, I think.
It's easier to get meth than it is to get raw milk. I'm not lying.
And at least put birth control in the meth. When do we make that law? Like, is that too much to ask? Like, give us something. That's my motto these days.
Yeah.
Thomas Massie, I just admire, I appreciate your time. That's what I really appreciate. And get out there and give them hell, man. Keep serving to the best of your ability, and just thank you for your service. And I just appreciate it.
Thanks, Theo.
Yep, you bet, man. Best of luck, dude. God.
Yeah. Keep an eye on the debt.
Yeah, I will.
It's about to go up.
She'll call me every hour and she'll be like, oh my God.
It's about to go up.
It is?
Yeah.
I'm looking for the jump. I'll be there.
Now I'm just floating on the breeze, and I feel I'm falling like these leaves. I must be cornerstone.